Welcome to the podcast and the shoulder pad, ladies and gentlemen. And today I'm really excited because I have a close friend of mine that's going to share with us a little bit, and we'll be able to kind of knock it around a little bit. Mr. Perry Warren Tuttle. I didn't even know about the Warren, man. And so I had to throw that in there, and just a huge talent coming out of North Carolina, and actually it was a Sports Illustrated front page for Clemson. See,
hey, look, that's such old story. I don't know when the last time I heard Warren.
Hey, listen. The only way I can get my picture on the front of Sports Illustrated is to superimpose it, baby. Nobody, my face has not been on, not only on the outside of Sports Illustrated, but it's not even been on the inside. My son Brandon has been on the inside with his high school team. They won 3 straight championships. But man, you know what? I'm gonna cut the intro kind of short because I didn't know you played as long as you did in Canada.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, I didn't have any idea. You know, we played together in Buffalo in 1983.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell the story about how Jerry Butler was there with me, and Jerry were there together, and how you cutting it up in college at Clemson, and man, they lifting you up and carrying you around the field and everything, and you're on Sports Illustrated. JB has your picture, your album cover thing, all of it in his locker. And I'm thinking, okay, man, you're trying to get rid of me and bring your boy in here. I'm thinking, what kind of friend are you?
Hey, look, man, being on the cover of Sports Illustrated, my college roommate reminds me that I'm the only person in the world that can make a living off of one catch. So I have worn that catch out for almost 30, 40 years now.
That's a national championship game, right?
It was an incredible game. We played Nebraska.
Yeah.
Came down to my last catch. And for me to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, which at the time was the most popular magazine in the world.
Yeah.
And it only came out once a month.
Yeah.
Unlike today. So, I wore that catch out. Man.
Well, it's all about being at the right place at the right time. You are a first round pick in 1982. And I said, yeah, there they go. See, JB did that. He brought him in first round right there behind me. And what you don't know is, you may know this, in 1982, I ruptured a disc in my back.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And so I was out during the whole season.
Yeah.
So everybody was saying, well, they replaced Byron with this guy, Perry Tuttle, and he's not going to have a job after this. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I got to go to work, man. My God, you got a pick and coming in and Sports Illustrated, dude, and I'm in trouble, man. I got to go to work.
Hey, I remember in 1983 when you came back. I don't know what happened during the off season, but you looked like you bench pressed the world. I mean, you were chiseled.
I went to work, babe.
You did.
I went to work. I realized that I had to come from behind in that race, and I had the opportunity to work out and stay in shape and then add to it because I was small, man. I think I was 178 pounds soaking wet, but I ran the 40 in 4.3. Yeah. That was my asset. So I figured if I could get a little stronger and learn the game, because at Auburn, we didn't throw the ball. So I was at receiver, but I did more blocking than I did catching passes. I think I only caught 40 passes in 4 years.
Really?
So I was a tailback in high school. So I had really no real experience at wide receiver when I came to Buffalo. And so I had to learn the position while getting bigger and stuff. And so it was just a great experience, man. And I can't tell you how much of a blessing it's been for me to be able to reconnect with you guys and have the opportunity to do what I'm doing. And I want to tell you, the podcast is really about helping men. Initially, it started about helping athletes who were struggling with the transition of coming out of sports and going into real life. And we've seen more stories where it hasn't been a good transition than it has been a good one. And you know, if you're blessed and you have good people surrounding you, good family surroundings and connections and stuff like that, it can you know, it can work and you can transition right out. But if you haven't done any pre-planning, if you haven't done anything, if you haven't transitioned in your mind, then it's a tough thing. So I want to ask you this. Give me a little bit about the transition that you've made from sports to life, and how any challenges you went through and how you overcame it.
Yeah, I think those are great questions. By the way, I really do appreciate being on the podcast, but you know, the transition going from really, you know, for all of us who made it to the highest level, the NFL, starting in, you know, for me personally in the fourth grade, and getting to taste early on. The only reason, the reason I chose number 22, Byron, is because of when I was in the fourth grade, Bob Hayes back in the day with the Dallas Cowboys was my hero, right?
Oh, wow.
And so it seems like it seemed like the Washington Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys were always on TV every Sunday, right? And so as soon as the game was over, every boy in the neighborhood, in my neighborhood, which is an all-black neighborhood, as soon as that game was over, man, we hit the outside and we were mimicking our heroes. Right? And so I wasn't planning on working up to be Bob Hayes. I was Bob Hayes.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
That's right.
He only had one route, go deep. Right?
Go deep. He just outran everybody to the ball.
That's right. And so what happened with me from early on, from high school, and certainly being prep All-American and being recruited the way I was recruited, and then ended up at Clemson, where even my freshman year, I ended up following, you mentioned, you know, so Jerry Butler, who at the time was an All-American, but we had the great Dwight Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Who ended up playing for the 49ers.
Right.
And so I came off the bench being a third receiver. And even as a freshman, I mean, we were fourth in the nation, beating Ohio State, where Coach Woody Hayes threw the right hook and was fired right at the Gator Bowl.
Right.
And so for me, then going to Clemson and making that transition, you know, whether it's in the NFL, whether it's in the CFL, I remember asking my wife at the time hey, where do you want to go live? And she said, where's the best place where most people love you the most? So that you can make a transition, which is very wise on her part, right? So we ended up going back to Clemson for 1 year. I went back to school, but Clemson gave me a soft landing.
That's good.
Right? I went there and I still had there was something inside of me that still wanted the flavor of being recognized, right?
That's right.
And so they treated me like I was still, quote, somebody, because all of the crowd noise that I was used to went silent. You know, for so long, you know, we get used to that. Right. And so what made it easier for me was that the fact that I went back to Clemson, had a soft landing as far as emotion, crowd noise, and people that loved me. But then having a chance to move to Charlotte, it was interesting. And so I found myself like some pro athletes, you know, we say that we don't want to be recognized, but when you start worrying but when you start wearing sunglasses indoors, you know, there's something about wanting to be recognized, and um, and so yeah, it was difficult,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I can tell you this one story that happened to me, and this was years later, Byron. I was in an airport and I was going to go speak, and while I was waiting in the airport along with everybody else, there was this father, this young father who had a son who looks like he was like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
And I can hear him tell his son, "Hey, that's Perry Tuttle. That's Perry Tuttle, right?"
Yeah.
And I heard him, and so he was trying to get his son to come over and ask for an autograph.
Yeah.
And the little boy really didn't want to, but
because he didn't know Perry Tuttle. I mean, he wasn't even alive.
No, no, no. I'm old, right?
Yeah.
And so at the time, and I know that you and other people have similar stories like this.
Yeah.
But so I was going to make this little boy's day. I mean, so I'm getting ready. I had a Sharpie, and I was going to make this little boy's day. And he finally got enough nerve up to come over and ask. And this is what he said to me. He says, "Mr. Tuttle, my dad said that you used to be famous. Can I have your autograph?" And I heard every word that his dad said. His dad didn't say that, but in his head, because I look old, right?
That's what he heard.
That was used to.
Yeah.
And it really taught me that how fleeting fame and celebrity status and how overrated it could be. And so it was a little small lesson, but all of us have those kinds of stories, right?
Man, let me tell you mine, and it's so similar.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I may have told you this, but if I did, just act like you hear it for the first time.
Yeah.
So my career ends in Seattle. Buffalo is on the runs. You know, they 2 or 3 in a row. They're on the runs, man. They're going to the Super Bowl every year. And so at the end of my season, the last season I played in Seattle, the Super Bowl was here in Atlanta. And so I live in Birmingham. So I said, you know what? I'm going to drive over there to Atlanta and go see some of my friends, because you still had Tally, you still had all those guys. And I actually went through training camp with Andre, with Chris Burkett, with Tally, Bruce Smith, all those guys, man. And so I said, I'm going to go to the Super Bowl. I've never been to one. I'm going to go over there and see my guys, man. I may not even go to the game. I'm just going to go see my guys. So I go over to Atlanta, and I'm in the hotel and lobby, and I'm looking around, and who do I see? Andre Reed. I go over to Andre. Great, how you doing, man? Man, it's good to see you, Byron. Da. Congratulations to you guys. I hope they all win and stuff. And I'm standing there, and this same thing, man. It must be the same little boy. Little boy walks up. He says, "Mr. Reed, can I have your autograph?" And Andre, being the guy he is, Andre turned to me. He said, "Listen, young man," he said, "you need to get this guy's autograph, because this guy taught me everything I know in training camp."
Oh, sweet.
This little boy looked at me and he said, this is exactly what he said. "What did your name used to be?" What did your name used to be? Now, I laughed at it and I said, well, I think my name used to be Byron Franklin. And I joked around, but that comment punched me in the gut, because that was the first time I had been approached or recognized as a has-been.
Yeah, wow.
That's what that said. Who are you? Who were you? And that's exactly what the little boy was saying to you.
That's
And,
a great story. That's a great story.
but I'm telling you, man, that was the first time I got it. It punched me in the stomach, and I realized, oh man, it's over. It's over. And
Well,
that was my it's over experience. And so obviously there was a lot of transitions and a lot of challenges. I've faced a lot of challenges, man, getting through that thing, because it's like my kids don't want to hear my stories. They don't want
yeah,
to they
right.
don't they don't want to hear my touchdown plays. They don't want to hear me talk about this. Early on, it's cool. You're saying that, oh, I did this, I did that, oh, I used to do this. But as they get older, your wife don't want to hear them stories no more.
Yes.
And for a long time, she don't say, baby, we know that story. After, after PT, they let you go for a while
Yes,
because they realize it's doing something for you.
yeah.
But after a while, they don't even care. They just tell you, we just don't want to hear that anymore. Right? We know.
Well, so that's a part of the transition where I personally got stuck.
Yeah.
And to get unstuck, man, I had to come up with some ways and some questions. And I remember one of the ways I got unstuck was really with my dad. My dad, who was he was a drunk, and he was always in and out of jail. But my last year of my dad's life, the last 8 years of my dad's life, my dad made such a turnaround spiritually. He made such a turnaround as far as a husband and as a dad. I don't know if I've ever loved a man or loved a person like I love my dad the last 8 years. It was a God thing, right? And so, but one of the ways I got unstuck, Byron, was, having my own children and they're getting grown. There was this burning question that I wanted to ask my dad growing up. He only came to watch me play. He didn't watch me play growing up when I was in middle school, high school. He only came to Clemson to watch me play one time. It was Parents' Day, and my mom made him come my senior year.
Wow.
It was Parents' Day. Living in the same house now, right?
Wow.
But so 4 years into the league, and then 6 years playing in the CFL, and now you're talking about 10 years later. I was doing some work with the NFL, and I had this burning question, 3 burning questions, and I finally, I drove up to my little old town up in Winston-Salem near Wake Forest University.
Yeah.
My dad was watching Gunsmoke. I remember he was watching Gunsmoke, right? His favorite TV show.
Yeah.
And I said to Dad, Dad, can I talk to you for a second? He was like, son, I'm watching Gunsmoke.
Come on, keep your priorities right there.
Yeah, right. That's like you and I watching the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
And I said to my dad, I turned the TV off and I said, Dad, I got to ask you this question. Do you love me? And he said, son, I love all my children. I'm the youngest of 7 children.
Yeah.
And I said, no, Dad, I'm not talking about Wayne. I'm not talking about Brenda. And I named all of my brothers and sisters. I said, I'm talking about me.
Yeah.
Now that I have my children and my family and I'm speaking all over the place, I'm writing books.
Yeah.
I've never, ever heard you say, I love you.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And it dawned on Byron, him that he had never told any of his children, I love you. Right? And tears started running down his face, and it just dawned on him. I mean, he's late in the game, right?
Yeah.
And so my mom came walking downstairs and she was like, Sam, my dad's crying. I'm like, Mom, please give us a break. Right.
It's a father-son moment.
It's a father-son moment, right? And I said, Dad, since you say you love, and he said, son, I love you. I said, Dad, here's my second question. Are you proud of me?
Wow.
And I said, here I am. I did the All-American thing, Sports Illustrated, first round draft pick. I'm doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I have never, ever heard you say, son, I am proud of you. And he said, son, I'm proud of you. Yeah. And I said, Dad, here's my last question. Would you go tell somebody? Anybody? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And my dad went outside, walked across the yard into Mr. Charlie's house.
Yeah.
Knocked on the door. My mom and I stood on the front porch. And I heard my dad tell Mr. Charlie 3 things. I love Perry. I'm so proud of him. And he said, and I wanted to tell you about it. and one of the things that got me unstuck wasn't so much, being around football anymore or being recognized. Yeah. One of the things that now I think this is for every man.
This is great, man. This is
right.
Yeah.
I think every man. Here's the other thing. Every father should tell their children, whether it's a daughter or son, 3 things. I love you. I'm proud of you, and I'm gonna go tell somebody. Right. Look, and I don't want to sound like Billy Graham, right? No. But I want you to. But I want you to know, if God the Father would lean over the balcony of heaven and would say these 3 things, this is my beloved son.
I'm well pleased.
Who I am well pleased. I'm proud of it, right?
Yeah, I'm proud.
And he looked at the disciples and said, y'all better listen to him. He's pretty good, right?
Yeah. That's right.
And,
that's right.
And every child should at least hear from their dad those things. And every older man like me, if your dad or someone like that, a coach is around that you admire, in order to fill that void, every man needs to hear those 3 things.
Well, I tell you what, man, you can never know how much of a blessing that example, not only the example of a kid that was so similar to mine, but just your circumstance and your situation. I think our fathers, my dad is 94, 95, and my mom's 93. They still live at home, just chilling.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that generation were never taught to do that.
Right.
Because their fathers didn't walk around saying, I love you. And that was too emotional. That was too much emotion. And they spent most of their time trying to get them through the hard times that were going on, and the depression and that kind of stuff. So they felt like, hey man, we got to be there. We ain't got time to be talking about I love you, man. We got to go find something to eat. And so I think that in some ways that resonates with me. And what I'm hearing is that there has to become a life connection to where it takes the place of, and just think about this. Think about this, PT. You did all that you did, never hearing that.
Right. That's right.
You did everything that you did. You accomplished all the things that you accomplished, not even hearing what really meant the most to you.
That's right.
So as much as you accomplished in sports, it didn't fill the void.
Didn't fill the void. I've been working for the last 15 years with NBA players.
Yeah.
So and I won't give his name. He's still playing, but I remember his team came into Charlotte, and I had a one-on-one meeting with him. And there's a couple of guys sitting around listening to us, but I asked him this question. He's probably one of the most recognized basketball players ever. And I asked him this question: if you had one ticket and there was only one empty seat in the arena and you had that one ticket, who would you invite to sit in that one seat? And this is what he said. He said, I would invite my dad, but here's the reason why. Just so I can tell him, this is what you missed out, because I never known him.
I got 9
minutes. Okay, cool.
This has been great, but I want to touch on your faith, because I know that you're a man of faith. And I'm gonna say this: I've never been around you and around your family, around your kids, your grandkids, but it's never been a time when you were talking that you wasn't talking about your kids, your grandkids, your wife, and everything. And now I kind of know, because I heard your testimony about your dad, and you do what your dad didn't do.
Yeah.
And I could tell that you had just a great relationship, and now I have a little bit better understanding of why. But it all speaks of tapping into relationships and tapping into this. With the closing few minutes, go ahead and talk a little bit about how faith has played a role in your transition.
Yeah. So I found myself where, when I was growing up, I talked to you a little bit about, Bob Hayes and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And as I wrap up, when I was growing up, everything that TV said that would make me happy, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And when I finally was a first-round draft pick, everything that TV said, do this, buy this. So I bought the best looking house. I bought the best looking car that was on the road. And, and so I found myself leaving the Buffalo Bills, going to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I was all by myself. I just bought this beautiful house in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I was single, 3 cars. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, and I didn't go to church.
Yeah.
But on a Wednesday night, Byron, I found myself empty. I looked around and going, I'm not having fun. Is this it? Right. Is this the very thing that I wanted?
Yeah.
And that night, on a Wednesday night, I got on my knees and I prayed a very simple prayer, and that was this. Because I grew up, my mom loving the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
My prayer was this: God, would you help me? And for about 10 seconds, that was my prayer. And I got up and I called my mom, and I told my mom what I just did. And the next day I was traded to Atlanta Falcons, and I ran into a guy named Steve Borkowski. Yeah. And Steve Borkowski started discipling me, right?
Yep.
And so I share all of that to let you know is that I believe that God would bring, of all the things, and I say this to my children, especially my boys, I hope you get everything that you can early on, just so that you know that it would never fulfill you, ever.
Wow.
Right? And that is really, but here's the other thing I found out. Now that I've been walking with the Lord for all these years, one of the things I realize is this: following Jesus doesn't make your life better. Following Jesus makes you better at life. Because the wind will blow, yep, and the rain will come, yep, on all of us.
Yep.
And God has taught me that I'm a different person in Him. There's a peace that surpasses all understanding. And let me just tell you, even right now, I'm going through one of the losing seasons of life I've ever gone through. But God has been faithful.
Yeah. Well, I tell you this, man, I'm going to wrap this up, but it's been an absolute joy, PT, to have an opportunity to talk to you, man. And you've done the shoulder pad justice, brother. You've created an opportunity for somebody to really hear how to make that transition and how to turn it around. And then most importantly, how to establish the fact that you establish an intimate relationship with the Lord. And I think that's, when we learned to take it from religion to relationship, we realized that there was something there that we were not tapping into. And so relationship is really what God looks for from us. And just like the Father and the Son, it's relationship. It's not laws and rules and do's and don'ts. It's really about love between two people and between us and the Lord. And so I just want to tell you, thank you so much, man.
Well, look, man, I'm proud of you. I'm proud, honestly. I think, especially for men of color, from a friend and a teammate, I want you to know, every man not only needs to hear those three things, but every man needs to hear, I'm proud of you, right? Thank you for the invitation to come on. I love you, brother. and hey, you know what? Hey, can I come on again? I want to do this again.
Yeah, we can do it again, and because we got a whole lot more to talk about, man. We got to talk about our teammates and
that's another 5 shows.
Absolutely. But I love you, man. I appreciate you. And I'll be in touch and look forward to seeing you again. I enjoy seeing you in Buffalo, man.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, I'm praying for you with your blue eyes. You fixing to get. All right. And if it all falls down, we can put it back together again.